Oh, there you go.
Okay, we're live. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're live now, John.
Yeah, we're now live.
Okay.
I'm extremely sorry. My name is John Preposterous Ryan. Sorry, there's a. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're live now, John.
Yeah, we're now live. Okay. Extremely sorry. This has just been a complete disaster tonight. I'm very sorry. We have had technical hitches galore. My mic and everything is gone. Now, I'm just wondering before we got cut off, Augie, you did the papers and we spoke about the direct provision with Lucky, did we not?
I think I was doing the papers and then it got cut off. I'm not sure how far I got into the papers, but I don't think Lucky got a chance to speak about direct provision at all, no.
Okay. Well, on Tuesday, the Supreme Court decided that the ban on work for asylum seekers waiting in direct provision are simply undocumented. Those who've lost the right, they didn't have the right to work, they now have the right to work, and the right not to work was declared unconstitutional by a majority in the Supreme Court of 7 judges. And Lucky is here, and the last time we spoke was last Thursday, and Lucky was in Holland, and we had no idea this was going to happen. Lucky, how did you hear the news? Hello, Lucky.
How did I hear the news?
Did I tell you?
I got a call. I got a call as the news broke on Tuesday from one of the journalists to look for those news, and he wanted a comment from me. That's how I got it, and I went and got the news report, and then I went and got the actual judgment.
Yeah, I was
in comprehensive judgment.
Yeah, this has been
started getting calls everywhere.
Yeah, well, this has been imposed on people in direct provision since 1996. It's 21 years, introduced by a Fine Gael Labour coalition, and 21 years was unconstitutional. All these attorneys general, ministers for justice, appeal court, high court. I mean, it's an incredible achievement, really, Lucky.
It is indeed. If you recall that this system has been in force for the past 17 years, and it has not been challenged in this way ever since. So it has been a no-go area, and it took the courage of the legal team and the applicant himself to try and look deep into the law and see if they managed to find those 7 judges unanimously found it to be unconstitutional with an indefinite ban of asylum seekers not to work as being unconstitutional, which is something that has been received with enthusiasm and hope and excitement from, most importantly, more than the commentators of and the advocates of the direct provision, the applicants themselves, it means more to them, you know. So now it's a matter of how it's framed and to how is the legislation going to look like now. Remember that I think the last time we were talking here, we were talking about the international protection also affects part of that act, which is on the right to work. I remember also, I mean, there's a lot that this ruling will as far as the act is concerned. I think opportunity for the lawmakers to revisit the act, it would have been shaken now. So it's an opportunity to address some of the issues that are with the act, because obviously there are amendments that need to be revisited there as well.
Sure. The position now is that for 6 months there's a stay, so the legislative bodies, the government can, as you say, either repeal the act or anyway. I mean,
it was interesting that the person who made the applicant, sorry to just interrupt, but I thought it was interesting, Lucky, how he was an asylum seeker. I think he was in direct provision for 8 years, was it? And then he received refugee status, which meant that he was allowed to work.
Yeah.
So the state were like, "Can you please throw this out?" Because he's no longer an asylum seeker, but he continued. I just thought it was worth noting.
He was like you, Lucky.
Mm.
Yes, exactly like me. So the angle was the loss of income for the duration of the time when he was not allowed to work while he was in direct provision.
Yes.
So that loss of income, that's the angle of which he was challenging that. I mean, exactly like me, I've been in the system for 3 years and 10 months. So I could not be able to access employment whatsoever. That is, I mean, I am as a capable person, I would, if I would have been working, I lost that opportunity to have an income.
Yes. Lucky.
Because of
Lucky, would you mind turning on and off your computer? I'm so sorry to ask you this. It's just the mic is a little bit like my mic earlier. It's a bit echoey. Would you mind, Lucky?
If I can, let me see if I can use the earphone.
Well, okay, we're just beset tonight, but I think it's fantastic news. It was fantastic news and really unexpected, and a very kind of hopeful sign. Johnny, even you were quite happy.
Yeah, absolutely, it's brilliant news. But I think there was a lot of pressure, no more than what Lucky was doing with Masai and another groups in relation to anti-racism. And I think a young man got up in Cork and I made a question to Bradker and Coveney last Monday, was it, or Sunday? I think that might have swung it as well in relation to the pressure that's been put on the last few weeks. I think with everything being brought out into the zeitgeist, I suppose that this is a serious issue. Everyone has been comparing what I've been hearing and reading. It's a travesty. It's akin to Magdalene Laundry, is what we talked about there a few weeks ago, and now it's just unacceptable. But as Lucky said, I alluded to before we went live, that even he knows, and he's not here, well, he's here long enough, I know it, that things move at its own pace in Ireland. Yeah. So even though, the judges have said that it's unconstitutional, that means let's put it back to the Oireachtas. So it's basically in Minister Fitzgerald's court again, and she's got enough on her plate. So, you know, and there's going to be a recess now for 3 months. So, you know, once the pressure is on, and that's the main thing, that it's highlighted, and I think, you know, we can be negative about it, but it's a positive move anyway, I think, forward. And fair play to everyone, and hopefully it'll be something that we put an end to, and we won't go back to that kind of thing. But it's been terrible. There was a nice piece there done by the Irish Times, a video. It was quite shocking, but very strong as well. And also a video of a guy in direct provision. So the music and the word is getting out that these are open air prisons, and people need to do their patriotic duty, close them down, and get on with it. Get these people working, because they all want to work. They all want to be here, and it's going to be great for Ireland. But well done to everyone, I think.
Neil, you're just back from America, but did you hear the news from there?
I did, yeah. That was one of the very few stories I got to see. Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's nothing negative we can say about it. Thankfully, common sense has prevailed, and we can have one less thing to be worried about as being a nation of wankers over. So it's good. We can move forward, and it makes sense. So good. It's great decision, or a great thing that happened this week. One good thing that happened this week, anyway.
Yeah. Well, it was the second really good decision by the Supreme Court. They've been quite good recently. I'll go. Before we were rudely interrupted by whatever. We were going to talk about the Garda College.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very tangled web, and I don't want to bore everyone, but essentially, so there have been reports. So everyone's hearing about a report that was been done in the last couple of weeks, so this is a report by Niall Kelly, and he's the head of internal audit, and basically there have been previous reports, and one of them is called the McGee report, and that's what the Irish Examiner is writing about tomorrow. And basically in the McGee report, a lot of the concerns were raised then that are the same concerns now, but essentially what we've had. So the story was broke by John Mooney, I think, in January, and then the report was given to PAC in February, March, and now we've had a series of meetings, or a series of appearances between Noreen O'Sullivan, senior civil service or civilian guards, and we've just had, hours and hours and hours of testimony, and essentially there's loads of questions, the same old questions: who knew what when. Noreen O'Sullivan saying that she found out about the irregularities on July 27th in 2015, and that she set up a steering committee the very next day. But yesterday we heard that in actual fact she would have known before that, and the steering committee was also set up before that, or was working before that. So she's going to be back in the PAC in 2 weeks. All these questions are going to be asked again. But it's staggering, like, essentially, so two people, just to name two people, because again, I don't want to confuse everyone. So, but John Barrett started working in the Guards as head of human resources in 2014, and he noticed that these irregularities, probably, I think mainly because of the previous reports in June 2015, and so was like, okay, we need to sort this out. And that's when he spoke to Noreen O'Sullivan and had that 2.5-hour meeting. According to Noreen O'Sullivan, it was a 5-minute chat over a cup of tea. So that was kind of the train was set in motion then. He claims that at that stage, Noreen O'Sullivan didn't really take these concerns very seriously.
Yeah.
She maintained she did. But then there was a series between, let's say, I suppose June and Christmas, let's say, there was, excuse me. So that's John Barrett. He raises it, and Niall Kelly is head of internal audit, so he's the guy to look into it and examine it.
John Barrett is head of human resources.
Yeah, and he's the guy who raised the red flag. And Niall Kelly is the guy who looked into it. But these two guys basically were blocked. John Barrett was accused of, in a letter to Noreen O'Sullivan, he was accused of possibly breaking the Official Secrecies Act, and that there possibly needed to be a criminal investigation into him. This is in a letter that he tried to get 6 times and only got it under freedom of information, and it was 85% redacted. Yeah. Niall Kelly was called mischievous, misleading, la 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 la.
And this is his colleague, right? I mean, this is his colleague wrote to Noreen to say that this guy was breaking the Official Secrets Act, and he was overly critical of the guards.
Yeah, this is the executive director of finance. I think that's his title. Yeah, Michael Cullen.
But he's got to work with this guy.
Yeah. No, so they were sitting next to each other in PAC yesterday, you know, and it got to the stage where, you know, Michael Cullen was asked about the stuff that he said and whichever, and he kind of was like, okay, maybe that was a bit unwise, you know, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I withdraw this, you know. So it's quite staggering. And, you know, John Barrett, you know, he released a massive, so Noreen O'Sullivan and these civilian guards and other senior guards were in front of PAC on May 4th. And there was a lot of discrepancy between all their evidence. And then after that, John Barrett gave PAC like a 122-page document. And actually, I might try and share something with you if I can. I hope I don't mess this up. But I don't want to...
I wasn't confused an hour ago. I'm pretty confused.
You're confused now, are you? Sorry.
Not at all.
But basically, it was something that tried to be there was an attempt to kind of cover it up. But if I could just show you an email, if this works, if it doesn't, I'll stop then, John. But there was an email sent, and this is an email that was sent to from Barry McGee to John Barrett, and I'm just. Hopefully you can see it there.
Barry McGee is the man who did the
report in 2008. And this is something that... Sorry?
How are you doing?
but this is a report that was... this is an email that Marilyn MacDonald mentioned yesterday in PAC. And essentially, this is from June 25th. And essentially, it says, I think the problem in approaching the solving of this is that because of the potential negative reputational risk for the organization, in that once this starts to be sorted, it hits the public media, either through audit, etc. It could have very big ramifications, like the accounting officer, which is Noreen O'Sullivan, I might just to explain, appearing before the PAC, etc. So it is how to solve this quietly without risking exposure. Again, this is just my opinion. So this report was quite sensitive. Michael has said, if you wish to meet to discuss this, I think that's Michael Callahan, has said, if you wish to meet to discuss this, might be useful. It's not necessarily a nice report. Blah, 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 blah. So there was just a, it would seem, I mean, Niall Kelly and John Barrett are saying that there was an effort just to cover this up, and I think that's pretty up.
Right, okay. So Neil.
Sorry, John.
Neil, you're our Garda correspondent.
I'm stuck.
Take your hands. Come on, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of been out of touch of the news for a few days, and then, you know, reading the latest update. It's like, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, and it did. It's just it's just, well, you know, it's the credibility has been so damaged. I really don't know how we can go back with this. I mean, we saw Leo's comments in the paper earlier about what he was open to, or, you know, in terms of, you know, accountability and that. And I don't know if Leo's the man for the job. I'm not a big Leo fan, but, you know, if that may be our starting point, that we just have to wipe the slate clean, get rid of all the dead weight, get rid of all the rubbish, and start with a clean sheet, because you can't restore credibility by having.
Would you disband the force?
No, and no. That's gone to another extreme. You know, we can't say, you know. Then there's a how do I say this? I sound like a stuttering fool now. There's a few people involved. There's a few people in this that are the problem. It's not everyone. I'm still a fan of the rank and file Gardaí, for the most part. But the people are the problem have to go. You know, we want to restore credibility. We have to do it from the top down. And putting wounds or putting plasters and bandages on it aren't going to fix it. And let the guards do their jobs. They've had enough trouble over the years. They've had enough things to have to deal with. We've had enough with border charges and all the rest that, you know, applied in our landscape. So let's start afresh. But the sooner we do it, the better.
Well, every one of these incidences, it's blamed on a culture. I mean, I don't know how you can get rid of a culture by just changing a few people at the top. The culture is obviously throughout. You know, I'm not. You know, that's the rotten apple thing. I think that the rotten apple thing has spread. You know, the crab apple has spread to.
I don't know about that, John. Like, and I can only use examples from the business world. You know, we've seen how companies have turned themselves around by a change of leadership, a change at the top, and I think that's, you know, it's sitting in my seat. I think that's what's really needed here. But it has to be a big, strong statement. You know, putting processes in place isn't the solution here if it's the same people at the top. You know, I think disbanding disbanding the force is.
The problem is if you bring in somebody from an international, like a New York police officer or whatever, you know, they're going to be bamboozled by the culture. The culture is so messed up and dysfunctional.
Well, that's true, and completely coincidental. I was in Phoenix in Arizona recently, and they have a police museum, which I thought was very strange thing to have in a town. So Phoenix doesn't have much else in it, bar the wonderful comedy scene. So I went to the police museum. I got talking to a few former police, and the Phoenix police force are this kind of they act as consultants in many ways to other police forces around the US. And they have a very diverse police force. Corruption is very, you know, it's perceptually or virtually non-existent, and they go, other police forces that have issues, they go in and help there. Now, I'm not saying that's a solution, but you know, we just needed leadership here and accountability, and we don't necessarily have to go abroad to do that. Perhaps the perception of getting an outside force in may have a positive effect, but we saw what happened when the mention of this other person who'd come in on a part-time basis, that didn't exactly have us all waving the flags for that. But no matter what happens, we need a big change, a big sweeping change from the top. No more band-aids, no more plasters. And start afresh. It's the only way to restore credibility.
Yeah. Well, Lucky.
Yeah.
Have you been following the Garda scandals over the last few years?
No, not really.
There've been many.
I didn't blame you.
Yeah.
I didn't blame you. I think, Johnny, you've been following the Garda scandals. I mean.
Well, like, as you can't put a fighter, and fair play to Olga having to go through all that, because it is kind of depressing.
No, I probably was terrible. Sorry, Johnny. I probably didn't.
No, Olga. No, it's quite confusing. But the memos that you were going through, looking at the pack, and I thought Mary Lou played a stormer in the pack and in the Dáil as well. But yeah, no, it is. It's very technical, and I think that's the way they want it as well. You know, make it as complicated as possible. And the thing in Irish culture, what you talked about, John, it is all part of the culture, especially in the public sector. And because the Gardaí are at the front line of the public sector, essentially, they get it's mostly highlighted. But like, if you look at Noreen O'Sullivan, like, she didn't get memos and all this, and she's got 2 phones, so you can understand like that she couldn't answer one phone because she was on the other phone while she was driving. Maybe, I don't know. The whole thing is farcical. It really is. She's weathering the storm. Sorry, Olga. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, they teased it out quite well yesterday. Like, it was astonishing, and I didn't do a good job of explaining it there. But, for example, they couldn't answer if they are tax compliant. Like, none of them could answer if the Gardaí are tax compliant. There was claims that they're, like, checks worth of tens of thousands signed by guards to themselves. They're looking into that. Catherine Murphy asked Niall Kelly if there was any investigation into, or was there any investigation into money being sent from the Garda College to a Dublin account belonging to a former senior guard. Niall Kelly wouldn't really say that there was, but he basically said there was. This is something that's under audit, so you can take from that what you want. But we know that there was like 48 or 50 accounts. You know, money was going from one place to the next, going to societies, going to, you know, clergy groups, golf, you know, laundry. 37% of it had nothing to do with laundry. You know, And
this is the
that's
golden
where,
circle
and
that we were
that's
talking
the,
about years ago, isn't it?
but
This
but
is more.
that's where they go to college. Like that's the,
Yeah.
you know, like
That's
But,
the alma mater.
yeah, but as Neil said as well, like, you know, and we talked about this, you know, ad nauseum, and to enormous boredom again.
yeah, sorry.
But it is the hierarchy. No, not you, Olga. No, I'm just talking about the whole thing is just boring at this stage because they're just playing the game essentially, and it's kind of funny, but it's also very very serious. But it does need to be changed from the hierarchy. Noreen O'Sullivan, I really thought, like, you know, when that scandal blew off, I don't know which one it was at this stage, but I think Broadsheet was the fourth weekend or something. I said Noreen O'Sullivan will be gone by next week. Like there doesn't seem to be any reason for her to go. And Francis Fitzgerald, like Claire Daly put to Kenny again, you know, his last leader's questions. You know, you can actually go out honourable because Leo or Simon are going to have to basically sack someone.
Well, I think
in the next few weeks, and she put to Kenny, to, you know, he can still, like, you know, go out with a bit of credibility. And it's unbelievable that the women politicians like Catherine Murphy and Catherine Connolly as well, as they're from Galway.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and Claire Daly, very, very cool, level-headed people. And they're really like, and the cops don't like it at all. It's absolutely brilliant to see.
I
The
think
cops being grilled at Vincent Brown show last night. What's his name? Michael Clifford was filling in. And there was an arrogance of one of the cops on the panel. You know,
John
on this,
O'Brien.
John O'Brien. He had a real, you know,
Who was
I
that?
wouldn't say,
John O'Brien. He's
I wouldn't say pig ignorant now. That'd be too obvious. But, you know, the attitude is just unbelievable. Like, you know, and to be honest with you, you reap what you sow. You know, we need to change the system, and it's the culture, John, as you said, and we're going around in circles. But, you know, they're just going to kick the can down the road. But the pressure will have to be kept on them anyway.
I guess the Charlton inquiry will be, or should be, extremely, you know, revealing, you know, and if it is going to be webcast or live cast or streamed or whatever, I think that it'll become even more relevant to everyone, you know, because I think people will be much more engaged with this tribunal than others. But that's just my feeling. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, but by then, Noreen will have long gone, and
yeah. Well, it was interesting. Sam Smith had a piece in the Mail on Sunday last week about how, well, who knows how true, but it was a rumor that she's got a job in Canada lined up
with the Mounties.
Yeah.
You don't say about the Mounties.
Yeah. They always get their woman. I just want to again apologise. We've just had a disaster tonight, and
how do you think it's going to go tomorrow, John?
Which the
Varadkar versus Leo? Yeah.
Well, I've been saying it for a week. I've always felt the fix was back in Bilderberg 2 years ago, or 2014, and I think Coveney's going to, you know, Coveney's will be anointed. I think. You know,
oh, interesting.
Well, no one asked him about that, did they?
I beg your pardon?
No, we talked about that there, about him going to Bilderberg with
Peter Sutherland.
Peter Sutherland, yeah, and being followed around by a Danish TV company. It was hilarious. 10 minutes of YouTube gold and that. But then we talked about, and there was no one asked him about that either. I mean, all the interviews that he did, no one asked him about Bilderberg.
And that started today as well, right?
Yeah. Isn't Michael O'Leary over there today?
Yeah.
Wow.
I have to say excuse me.
Flights will definitely be on time then.
I think this year's Bilderberg is an all-American one. There's no European for some reason, I think.
No, there is, because I know O'Leary was in the paper because he's on his way.
And Patrick Collison from Stripe.
Oh, O'Leary's going to Bilderberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been there before.
Has he?
Yeah. And Michael Noonan.
Noonan, yeah. I didn't realize, I didn't know Michael O'Leary had been there before. But
where the Eagles and the Vultures meet.
Well,
don't say a bad word about Michael O'Leary now, Johnny.
Michael O'Leary, I tell you one thing about Michael O'Leary. I actually got a letter from Michael O'Leary saying he was wrong, that our flight was at fault, or right now we're at fault why we didn't get our flight to Hamburg to see Leonard Cohen, and I have that in writing, and I still didn't get a refund.
He's the leader of capitalism.
Johnny, put that on eBay.
Yeah.
Just a bit of kind of housekeeping. I just want to say hello to a commenter, 15p, who is unwell and has been a commenter for a long time, and hope this gives you a bit of strength. All the very best from everybody at the sheet and from all the commenters as well. So that's for 15p. The next thing is Cynthia Owen. We did an interview with Cynthia last Friday week, and it went on over 3 hours, but we were going to edit it down, and when we got the thing back, you can see me asking the questions, but you can hear Cynthia's voice, but you can't see the picture. So we have to redo that again. But just to say that I'd promised it a few weeks ago, and anyway, it's going to happen, but it's going to take a little bit longer. That's all the housekeeping. I'm extremely sorry about this evening. Lucky, can I just ask you about the open day? Is there any more on the date?
No. Nothing has been forthcoming as far as that is concerned. Still, I haven't seen any.
But you've got a lot of guys going to the and women going to the match tomorrow in Bohemians. Is it?
Oh yes.
Johnny?
Yeah, Lucky is organising that. Seems to be brilliant. Unfortunately, won't be able to make it, but go on, Lucky. What's the crack with that tomorrow night?
All right. Tomorrow night is the match between the Bohemians and the Drogheda. It's a home game and a must-win game for the Bohemians here in Peterborough. And we have arranged with the local team they've given us about 80 tickets, free tickets. We have a bus that will leave from Clondalkin's Direct Provision Center to pick up a few people there, and it will go via Finglas, Balseskin, to pick up another group there, and then lead straight to the grounds. And we have also extended invitation to our local supporters as well, even if they are not in Direct Provision, to come and have fun there. And there's another center as well in Hutch Street, which is Hutch Hall. They will provide transport also from there for people to be there. We want to be there and to still highlight Direct Provision in the soccer stadium, and in a way to celebrate as well the news that came out this week, and still put pressure to say we want the right to work and Direct Provision.
And presumably now there'll be one of those documented, or a few of those documented, who could play for League of Ireland teams. No?
Yes.
So
yeah,
they can now.
That's the future, John. That is the future.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
we have talent. We have talent. In direct provision.
And there's a good spirit there in Dalymount Park as well. I was saying that's where Bob Marley played in 1980. So
yeah.
What love vibe there, man. That's going to be class. Nice one.
Also, I saw Meatloaf play there. I don't know if that's not as stern.
No, stick with the Bob Marley vibe there, John. Thanks.
Again, apologies for tonight. It's going to be really, really slick from next week. We're going to do a special on the UK general election as the polls close. So with some of the usual panel and maybe some people from the UK, and then
vote Labour.
Sorry, Johnny.
Sorry, just vote Labour.
Oh, vote.
Which country, Johnny? Just be clear.
I think if they vote Labour in Britain, I think it leaves us in a very nice way to follow. follow suit. Not for Labour here, but
Yeah.
change. It's brilliant. The whole thing is changing really, and you can see Donald Trump and the arrogance of him tonight. That's okay. Leave that over there. But we didn't get time to talk about that. Can I plug my gig, John?
I beg your pardon?
I've got a comedy in Kilkenny this weekend.
Of course. Sorry,
John.
John.
We're on the fringe and off the fence. Really good comedians that you've never heard of, but there's no reason not to check them out. So yeah, at a very reasonable price. So if you ever need an excuse to come to Kilkenny, you have one now anyway. Okay. There's a great comedy festival going on. We're on the fringe of it in the Home Rule Club. Check out the Laughing Stock Comedy Club Facebook.
In Laughing Stock Comedy Club, and that's in Kilkenny, and that's over the weekend, isn't it?
That's right.
All over the weekend. This weekend.
And we're getting we're going rock and roll comedy, the 1967 Summer of Love. We're getting all reinvigorated and nostalgic about that. And I was looking at Sgt. Pepper's 50th anniversary today, in fact.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, that's one of the poorest albums of that year, and I don't say it lightly because you've got two albums by the Doors. You've got a great band, Love, Forever Changes, and Velvet Underground, and it's amazing the music that was back then. So hopefully, there'll be revolution in the air, and as my old friend Bill Hicks says, the next revolution is going to be a revolution of ideas. So I think we're halfway there in solving the world's problems already. So
okay, that's the
Kilkenny's the place to be, outside of Dalymount Park, obviously tomorrow night.
Okay, outside of okay. So Dalymount, we got Dalymount Park, and then we're going to do the comedy. Anything going on with you, Neil?
I'm just out of a gig tonight, so my improv group, Kirsty, we've started a monthly first Thursday of every month, Kirsty and Friends in Chaplin's Bar in Dublin. So you get to see us do a bit of improv comedy, and then we have a different act joining us. Tonight we had Miriam Donoghue, the musician, she was amazing. So next one's in July.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely, and we'll plug that on the site as well. And as I say, next week, from June the 22nd, then we will be coming out. We will be broadcasting at 10:45, and to take advantage of the stretch and all that. And that'll be our summertime until September. We're going to get a producer. We're going to get this sorted out. All the technical stuff is going to be perfect in 7 days anyway. We'll forget this ever happened. Okay. I'd like to thank Johnny Keenan. I'd like to thank Lucky. I'd like to thank Neil Curran and Olga Cronin from The Sheet, and myself, John Preposterous Ryan from The Sheet. Thank you very much. Good night.